Hi everyone, hopefully everyone's doing well. Today I'm going to do a very brief set overview of old Hollywood. Now I say very brief, this video will probably end up being 20 minutes long. So, well, take it for what it is. I'm just going to start right away. We'll start from the front with trope. Trope basically overlaps in usage with Levy AR Lab Access in terms of what they do, heap recursion. Now, the first thing you notice, the most obvious difference you notice is that trope is targeted recursion, whereas Levy is entire deck recursion. So Levy in most cases is actually going to be better because most decks nowadays want to cycle through the entire deck, perhaps because they want more hit points against Jinteki PE, perhaps because they want to recycle all their event economy, or all their... Basically, you want to see more cards, and Levy gives you up to 45 more cards, whereas trope is very slow and usually doesn't build up to more than 8 cards, I would say. I tried it once in a local game night store game. I only managed to get up to 6 counters against Jinteki PE. That was a very close shave, that game. So trope is going to be inferior in most cases. You only really want it as opposed to Levy if, firstly, you're in Anarch, so you don't spend a 3 influence, and secondly, you really want to make use of the targeted reshuffling. So I think this does work best by far in Siphon Max, simply because you deck yourself very quickly, so you're able to get your 3 account siphons back very quickly. Because the smaller your deck is when you use trope, the more likely you are to see your reshuffled cards when you draw them up. So outside of Siphon Max, there's very little use of trope, where Levy doesn't do the job better, and you don't need both. That is too much recursion for most decks nowadays. Spoilers is a useless card. I'm not going to talk much about it. It's coaster fodder. Drug dealer. This has been hyped up a lot as something that can empower criminals now with very good card draw. But is it really that good? Let's take a look at just how good it is. If you combine it with one of the cards normally played in criminals nowadays, Symmetrical Visage, you'll notice that both of them, one provides you money for drawing cards, one loses you money but draws you cards automatically. When you combine them both, what do you get? You lose a credit, you gain a credit from Visage, you draw 1 card from each, so that's 2 cards you draw, but for the cost of a click, because you're using Visage Draw. So each turn you basically spend 1 click to draw 2 cards. Does that remind you of any existing card? Yes, it's Wildside. The combo of Drug Dealer plus Symmetrical Visage is essentially exactly the same as Wildside, except that Wildside costs only 1 card install as opposed to 2 card installs. So when you look at it this way, you realize that Drug Dealer is not all that good at all, because Wildside is the benchmark, and Wildside by itself is not a very good card. The only reason why it's played so much nowadays is because of adjusted chronotype. So Drug Dealer really isn't that good. It's only good if you are flooded with money and you need your card draw to draw you more siphons, more breakers, etc. In that case, yes, Drug Dealer is good, because spending 1 credit for a card is far better than spending a click for a card when you're rich. And criminals can get rich pretty quickly. So that might be the upside, but you really have to find a way to get rich very quickly as criminal, because nowadays with all the nasty ice out there, criminals need to spend a lot of money breaking ice and trashing assets. I don't think you can afford to play Drug Dealer with the amount of money you have left. And not to mention that it's a compulsory lose 1 credit. Next up, Rolodex. I want to like this card. It has synergy with Eureka and Street Peddler. I really want to like it and play it because it's only 1 influence, but unfortunately it's not going to work out. It would be better if it actually had more utility by itself, if you don't draw the combo Eureka or combo Street Peddler. I would actually have liked it if Rolodex had a on trash ability to just trash itself, meaning that you can trash the top 3 cards of your stack anytime. This will actually help you accelerate your draw by trashing cards. If you see useless cards on the top of your deck, like duplicate KD Jones and Desperados, you can at least trash Rolodex to trash these cards so that your future draws will be of higher quality. But as it stands, you can't manually trash Rolodex without another combo piece, be it Salt Spawn Shop or Chopbot. And this means that by itself, Rolodex is of very low utility, on par with Precognition, and we all know how much play Precognition is seeing right now. So It's a no for me for Rolodex, even though it costs 0 and 1 influence. Fansight, another 0-1 influence card. This basically has two synergies. The frame drop and data dealer, both of which are out of faction. So if you're gonna use Fansight, you need to splash for influence to combo with this. How good are the combos? If you're comboing with frame drop, you are spending 3 clicks, 1 credit for frame drop, and 1 or 2 influence per set. Because if you're playing a Shaper or Enoch, you need to spend at least 1 or 2 influence. And you need to draw both in the same combo to just give 1 back pub to the core. Is it really that worth it? You compare that to another means of giving back pub, investigative journalism, which isn't seen at all right now in Valencia decks. Costs 5 clicks for 1 back pub. It's almost the same, especially when you consider the influence cost. So I think frame drop is a pretty bad combo with Fansight because investigative journalism does more or less the same thing. I know it has the restriction of requiring at least 1 back pub, but in terms of efficiency, Fansight into frame drop is not good for doling out multiple back pub to the core, which is a pity because I like to see more ways of giving multiple back pub to the core. It looks like FFG doesn't want to make it too easy for the runner to do so, and it probably is for the better for balance reasons. So this leaves us with only one more other option. Data dealer into Fansight. That will generate 27 credits, 3 data deal Fansights for the cost of 7 clicks. 27 credits for 7 clicks, that is nearly 4 credits per click. It's pretty worth it if you can spare the influence for either data dealer or Fansight. So that's a pretty good combo. It does generate quite a lot of money. Next up is Film Critic. A lot of people have talked about Film Critic. I don't need to mention it anymore. It's a meta-dependent choice, but it pays off most of the time because it covers a huge portion of the current meta. Paparazzi. Again, not something I need to talk about too much because there are a lot of decks out there that speak for themselves. Paparazzi combos with a lot with data leak reversal, and also combos very well with Fall Guy and Wireless Net Pavilion because it makes it so hard to trash Paparazzi. Not much I need to say more here. I think there are other people out there who can do a better job than me at explaining the benefits of Paparazzi. Ronald 5, a card that I really want to like and I thought was pretty good. Turns out it's going to be very hard to make this work. It's basically an encryption protocol on steroids. It costs more to res, and it does more work. Instead of losing an extra credit, they lose a whole click. The problem is they can easily run on last click to trash your assets to avoid this tax. It would be nice if you have an Ash on your R&D and you have a res 105, but again, they'll just pay the click or run last click. It doesn't really do much. It only really synergizes with last click punishment in form of Rion Knight, and I'm not sure if that is too powerful right now to justify playing 105, sadly. And it doesn't help that it's unique either. Yes, that is one pretty glaring downside as well. Although I guess it would be broken if you could rest multiple 105s. Alright, moving on, Enforcer. Enforcer doesn't hold a candle to Archer because it can be clicked through, so you're not going to get surprise trashes. Instead, it is purely meant as a tax ice, but the fact that you have to forfeit an agenda means that it's probably not too good. It's a trap is just bad. Not many people play Expose nowadays, and Expose is played usually on assets and agendas, not on ice. An offer you can't refuse is something that has been hyped up a lot by other people, and I haven't seen it played ever since Old Hollywood has came out, and for a very good reason. It's not a good card. I have to say again, there are lots of downsides to this card. Firstly, it's 4 to play. 4 credits. A card which really works best in the early to mid game stage. Are you really going to pay 4 credits on your first click or your first or second turn just to force the runner to concede 1 agenda point? I don't think so. And yes, and that's the other bad thing. It doesn't really work late game when the runner has the rig set up at that point. Do you really think you can close out the game if you're on match point with an offer you can't refuse? I don't think so. It also takes up precious deck slots, which can be used for more money, which would probably win you the game, rather than a card that leaves your fate in the hands of the runner. It's just a pretty mediocre card overall, and I guess it's justified because agenda points are a pretty big deal. But on the same token, the 4 play cost is too much to justify this. Harpsichord, I think this is a sleeper card. I think most people are going to overlook it, especially with Data and Destiny now rest on Octagon as well. People are going to gravitate to the D&D ambient identities, but Harpsichord, people are more likely to forget when it's actually a pretty strong ID. I think many people overlook the subtle advantage of being able to not outright lose to a mega R&D dig on the runner's last turn in a Hail Mary ditch effort. Like if you're on 5 points and you're about to fast advance your win next turn, the runner cannot simply just medium dig or index you to victory and steal the win from you. And I think that's a pretty big upside. You don't necessarily have to build to the ID in the sense that you don't have to play Shipment from Mirrormorph and install 3 agendas in one turn, face down, naked. You don't have to do that. I think inherently the ability to reduce the value of Maker's Eye digs and medium digs is pretty powerful in the current meta. Award Bay and Explodapalooza, well, they are okay. I don't like 3-1 agendas, and this is no exception. Explodapalooza is pretty good, but Dice to Film Critic will be an argument that I'll be using a lot as I continue reviewing the rest of this pack, and this falls to that as well. I think a lot of people will be playing Film Critic now, and I think it will be a mistake to include too many of these cards without any counterplay for Film Critic. Early Premiere, I think this is pretty bad. 2 trash cost is a glaring downside, and the ability to never advance 4 advanced agendas is pretty good, I must say. It's kind of like biotech, where you can go from a never advanced state to 4 advancements in one turn. The problem with that is, firstly, again, it's too trash, so it weakens your R&D thickness, and secondly, it means that it's quite easily contested from your remotes if you decide to install it naked. You can't really afford to install it naked, and even if you somehow get it off, there are not that many good 4-2 agendas in NBN to justify including early premiere, in my opinion. Next up, Casting Call. It's a fantastic operation. Someone mentioned the combo of Casting Call in Argus Security with a Data Raven protecting the agenda, and that's a pretty sick combo, if not for the fact that it dies to Film Critic. Again, there has to be some sort of counterplay to Film Critic before you consider playing Casting Call. If you don't have any sort of counterplay, it might be best to only include 1 or 2 copies against runners who don't run Film Critic, because they just completely ruin Casting Call. Okay, Old Hollywood Grid. This would be a decent agenda protector if not for the fact that it costs 5 whole credits to res. This is ridiculous. I know the cannot clause on Old Hollywood is very strong, making it a more powerful protector than Ash or maybe even Caprice. But the fact that it costs 5 to res, that is an ungodly amount of money for the core. I'm not going to play this over Ash or Caprice if I can help it, because 5 credits is way too much. For 4 trash cost, it really should cost less. I would consider playing it if it were at 3 to res. 2 to res might be a bit powerful, but 5 to res, no way. Especially if it cannot be comboed with Breaker Bay Grid Leader. So that is a big pity, because in addition to having to build your deck around it, having multiple copies of agendas makes Old Hollywood less effective. On top of that, you must have enough credits to res Old Hollywood. So I think just spend your deck slots on ice or better upgrades instead. Old Hollywood is not going to be good. Hollywood Renovation. The card text is so small that I can't read what it does, so we'll skip it. Back channels. Back channels is pretty interesting. It's something like reuse, an econ card that forces you to give up some form of some other form of resource. In this case, advanced cards. Is this worth playing? For most of the time, it's probably not worth playing, especially not on agendas. You would want to play this on traps, and that is exactly what its use will be for. Imagine playing this on a Mushin no Shin Overwriter or Junbug. So it's a 3 advanced Junbug, you'll get 9 credits from it since it's 3 per advancement token. So for 3 clicks, 2 for the Mushin no Shin and 1 for back channels, you gain 9 credits. 3 credits per click. That is fantastic. That is better than what do you call that? That is better than capital investors, and it's on par with government takeover, which is pretty fantastic. Now it's a 2-card combo, which is a little demanding, but that's fine because you're actually one of the costs of playing this combo is an unwanted resource, which is a failed trap. So this means 2 things. Firstly, they don't have to be present on the same turn. You can mush in a trap. If they don't run it, you can always cash it in later. So this unwanted you're actually turning a failed resource to your benefit. You're gaining money even though you've advanced a failed trap, which is always very nice. The main downside to this is the influence costs. Because they are both in different factions, you have to pay money to get this combo online. And the worst thing is that back channels was printed in the faction that needed it the least, that has used for Mushin Noshin the least. Because of the 4 factions, only Weyland doesn't have any in-house advanceable traps. NBA at least has Ghost Branch, HB has their aggressive sacks and overwriters, and obviously Jinteki with all their shenanigans is a pretty nasty place to play this. I think this will only see play in Jinteki PE, and even then I highly doubt it because Jinteki PE needs to influence way more for other cards such as traps and ice. But it's still a pretty nifty printing. I'm sure you see it from time to time, but it won't be as effective as it could have been because it's printed in the wrong faction. Vanity Project, I've already made a video on this. You can check my YouTube for it. Won't talk anymore about it. So that's Old Hollywood in a nutshell. I'm sure this took 20 minutes. This wasn't brief at all. I'm sorry about that, but thanks for watching still, and happy net running. Goodbye.